Welcome back to Noir Alley, TCM's safe house for cinema's most charismatic cops, crooks, and crackpots. I'm your host, Eddie Muller, here on weekend furlough at Bar 355 in Oakland, California. For this week's offering, we're going to take it to the house of noir, that is, RKO Radio Pictures, and a B picture called Follow Me Quietly. It's not even an hour long. Definitely the shortest film I've shown on Noir Alley, but there's quite a backstory to how this movie made it onto American screens in 1949. Several factors led to the creation of Follow Me Quietly. In May of 1948, Howard Hughes gained control of RKO, ushering in an era of nonstop financial and emotional instability. Dory Sherry, the studio's head of production, jumped ship almost immediately, leaving the day-to-day survival of RKO in the hands of Sid Rogel, who for more than a decade had run the studio's B unit. Through all of RKO's twisting fortunes, the B unit held the tiller steady and continued to turn out profitable films. And Sid Rogel was the hard-headed and tight-fisted boss of the Bs. Once Hughes assumed control, Rogel's job became even more critical, as production of costly top-tier movies basically stopped. In early 1949, Rogel was hard up for simple, small-budgeted projects that could help keep the studio above a rising tide of red ink. Rogel had duly noted the surprising success of a picture called He Walked by Night, made for a new studio, Eagle Lion. It was a police procedural, done in so-called semi-documentary style, about the manhunt for a renegade killer. Something about it struck Rogel as familiar. From his files, he pulled an aborted project from 1947, one he'd given to writer Martin Rankin to turn into a finished script. But given all the fuss that had erupted with Hughes taking over the studio, it never got made. The original story, Follow Me Quietly, by Francis Rosenwald and Anthony Mann, was first bought by producer Jack Rather, who intended to make it as part of a multi-picture deal with Allied Artists, with Don Castle playing the lead. Rogel bought the story from Rather, expecting to have Anthony Mann make it at RKO, where the director had already made several sturdy B pictures during the war. His most recent, 1947's Desperate, displayed genuine brilliance on a virtually non-existent budget. So, at its new home, Follow Me Quietly was green-lighted for production, with Kent Smith in the lead and Anthony Mann at the helm. But Mann was enticed away from RKO by independent producer Edward Small, who gave him complete control over a pair of films that would largely define the look and feel of post-war noir, T-Men and Raw Deal. And Mann would never return to RKO. But his story, Follow Me Quietly, about a manhunt for a mysterious serial killer, would go into production in 1949, this time with a new director, Richard Fleischer. Fleischer wasn't only a talented director, he was a lucky one. Sid Rogel was notoriously rough on directors, but for some reason he'd taken Fleischer under his wing in 1946. For many months, before Fleischer was even allowed to call action, Rogel personally mentored the young director in the intricacies of film production, particularly the value of being as creative as possible while always bringing a film in on schedule and on budget. Fleischer learned Rogel's lessons well. He zipped through a series of B pictures in the late 40s, mostly for RKO, earning a rep as a director who could artfully tell a story on the most austere budget. I've shown many of these already on Noir Alley: The Clay Pigeon, Armored Car Robbery, The Narrow Margin, and Trapped, a movie restored several years ago by my Film Noir Foundation. That film also has a connection to Anthony Mann, as it was clearly inspired by his 1947 sleeper hit, T-Men. Now, as for the notion suggested in some books and web databases that Anthony Mann, uncredited, directed parts of Follow Me Quietly, it's not true. His only connection to this film was as co-writer of the original story. It may have still been early in his career, But Dick Fleischer didn't need help directing movies, as will be abundantly clear from several thrilling sequences in this film. The final script is by Lily Hayward, who started writing pictures in the mid-1920s. She'd come to Hollywood from Minnesota with her sister, both determined to be actresses. Her sister succeeded, making several movies with D.W. Griffith. But Hayward turned to writing and proved adept in many genres, scripting RKO's noir western Blood on the Moon, as well as many action-packed Bs. She'd go on to specialize in animal stories, but here she's dealing with the human animal, an elusive serial killer nicknamed the Judge. And our hero, played by William Lundigan, resorts to some unusual tactics to track down his prey. From 1949, Follow Me Quietly.